Okay, here's a thought for you. What if one of the simplest questions you could possibly ask is also one of the hardest, maybe even impossible to answer? Well, we're about to jump into a 2,400-year-old quest to do just that, chasing a definition that's dodged some of the greatest minds in history. And our story starts in ancient Athens with Plato's incredible dialogue, the Theaetetus.
So what is it to truly know something? I mean, really. Go on, take a second. Think you've got a solid answer? Well, a brilliant young mathematician named Theaetetus sure thought he did. And he was about to have his entire world turned upside down by the sharpest, most relentless mind in all of Athens, Socrates.
All right. Now, the way Socrates tackles this question is what makes this whole thing so legendary. See, he doesn't see himself as a teacher, someone who just pours answers into your head. No. His job is, well, it's a lot weirder and way more profound. He says he's a midwife, but for the mind.
So what on earth does he mean by that? It's a pretty wild idea, right? Socrates is basically saying he's intellectually empty. He doesn't have the answers. His special skill, his art, is helping other people give birth to their own ideas. He's not the source of the wisdom. He's just the guy who helps bring it kicking and screaming into the light of day. But his job isn't done once the idea is born. Oh no. Then comes the test. Is this a real, healthy, viable thought? Or is it what Socrates calls a wind egg, a phantom pregnancy, a false idea that's not worth raising? And that's exactly the process we're about to watch unfold. Theaetetus is the one in labor, and Socrates, the midwife, is ready to examine his intellectual offspring.
So the stage is set. Theaetetus, feeling those first pains of intellectual labor, offers up his very first definition. And you know what? It's an idea that feels super intuitive, one you probably thought of yourself.
Pretty simple, right? To know something is to see it, hear it, touch it, to perceive it with your senses. I know this desk is solid because I can feel it. I know that car is red because I can see it. It sounds totally reasonable, doesn't it? I mean, seeing is believing after all. But is seeing the same thing as knowing?
Socrates immediately connects this idea to a famous saying from the sophist Protagoras, "Man is the measure of all things." What that basically means is that truth is totally relative. If the wind feels cold to you, then it is cold for you. If it feels warm to me, then it is warm for me. It's kind of the ancient philosophical version of you do you. There's no objective truth, only your personal experience.
But Socrates, in this just beautifully simple way, completely takes this argument apart. He says, okay, if seeing is knowing, what happens when you close your eyes? You're no longer seeing the room in front of you, but you still remember it. You still know it's there. And boom, that's the crucial difference. You can have knowledge without perception. So knowledge and perception can't be the exact same thing.
And just like that, the first intellectual baby is declared a wind egg. It's not going to make it. But listen, this isn't a failure. This is a necessary step. For Socrates, before you can build something true, you have to clear away all the rubble of false ideas. You've got to start with a clean slate.
But Theaetetus isn't giving up. He goes back into that mental labor, and this time he comes up with something new. He moves away from the messy world of the senses and into the world of the mind. So, is this next intellectual baby going to be strong enough to survive Socrates' examination?
Okay, this definitely feels like a step up. Knowledge is having an opinion or a belief that just so happens to be correct. For example, I might have an opinion that my favorite team is going to win tonight's game. If they do win, then my opinion turned out to be true. So, does that mean I knew they were going to win?
To test this, Socrates brings up the perfect example, a courtroom. Imagine a really persuasive lawyer convinces a jury that someone is guilty. Now let's say that person actually is guilty, so the jury now holds a true opinion. But here's the catch. They weren't there. They didn't see the crime. They were just persuaded by a good argument. They have a correct belief, for sure, but can we honestly say they have knowledge, or were they just kind of lucky to be convinced of the truth?
And the verdict is in. A true opinion, all by itself, just isn't enough. A lucky guess, or a belief you hold just because someone was persuasive, even if it's correct, it just doesn't have that certainty, that bedrock foundation that we expect from real knowledge. So, another intellectual baby is cast aside.
But Theaetetus, he has one last burst of inspiration. He realizes what was missing from his last attempt. It's a crucial ingredient, a justification. And this leads to his final and by far his most sophisticated definition.
Now this is a powerful idea. This is a game changer. Knowledge isn't just believing something that's true, it's believing something that's true and being able to explain why. You have a rational account for it, a logos. You don't just think it's true, you can lay out the reasons. Honestly, this is getting super close to what philosophers for centuries have called justified true belief. It feels right, doesn't it?
But Socrates, the master of the analogy, finds a tiny, subtle crack in the foundation. He says, think about the first syllable of my name, so. You can explain it by breaking it down into its parts, the letters S and O. But what if you can't actually know the individual letters? What if they're just basic, unknowable sounds? How can you take two things you don't know, stick them together, and somehow end up with something you do know? It's like trying to build a solid wall out of mist.
And then he delivers the final blow. He asks, what does it mean to give an explanation? Well, one way is to explain how something is different from everything else. But to do that, you need to have knowledge of that difference. So your definition of knowledge suddenly becomes knowledge is true opinion plus knowledge. Do you see the problem? It's totally circular. It's like defining a word by using the word itself. You've gotten nowhere.
And with that, the third and final definition, the best and most promising one of them all, just dissolves under that relentless Socratic questioning. After this absolutely grueling intellectual workout, they are left, it seems, with absolutely nothing.
So, what was the point of all that? I mean, seriously, if every single answer they came up with was shot down, was this whole thing just a massive failure? Or maybe the point was never to find an answer in the first place. And this right here is where the true genius of the whole thing is finally revealed.
Socrates doesn't sugarcoat it. He basically tells Theaetetus, look, my art has shown that every one of your ideas was stillborn. They were all wind eggs, not worth raising. It sounds unbelievably harsh. They started with a simple question, and now, after all that work, they've got no answer. Or have they? And here it is. This is the beautiful paradox at the very heart of this dialogue. Theaetetus hasn't failed. Not at all. In fact, he's just won an incredible victory. He has been freed from the single most dangerous kind of ignorance there is, the illusion that he knew something that he actually did not. And that brings us to the core of Socratic wisdom. It's summed up in that famous phrase, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. See, wisdom isn't about being a walking encyclopedia. It's about having the intellectual humility to see the boundaries of your own understanding, to admit what you don't know.
So why on earth should we care about this 2,400-year-old conversation today? Because right now, in our world of filter bubbles and information overload where everyone seems so certain, this dialogue is like a powerful medicine. It's a masterclass in how to think critically, a reminder that sometimes the most important questions are the ones we need to ask ourselves.
And so we're left right where Socrates and Theaetetus were, with a question. But now the question is for you. In your own life, in your own search for truth, which do you think is better? The comfort and certainty of a wrong answer, or the challenging, liberating discomfort of having no answer at all?